Hey, we are back. This is lesson 8, and I'm coming at you with perimeter and area. Okay, your two objectives are there, so let's go ahead and get started with our fun fact of the day. And our fun fact of the day is that your fingernails grow nearly 4 times faster than your toenails do. That's really gross, so we're just going to go ahead and move on to the examples. Okay, first thing we have to do before we can do examples of perimeter and area is remember what perimeter and area are. So I've given you just a nice little visual here. Okay, I've highlighted perimeter in red. Well, the perimeter of this rectangle is highlighted in red, and the perimeter of the triangle is highlighted in red. Okay, the perimeter is the distance around an object. Okay, the distance around an object, and we find it, this is important, by adding up all the sides. Okay, so perimeter, distance around the area, or distance around object, we find it by adding up all the sides. Area, okay, area is the stuff inside here. Okay, so the area is the amount of space an object covers. Okay, so the area of this rectangle is the amount of space it covers up on the page. The area of the triangle is the amount of space it covers up. Okay, and we will learn some different formulas and things depending on different shapes for area. Alright, and we'll review a lot of this stuff. So, let's go ahead and dive right into some examples. Okay, diving into example 1 here, says that we want to find the, well, let's just look at this first. The figures below show the dimensions of room A, right here, and room B. Okay, we want to find the perimeter of each room in yards. That's step A. So, key point here, that this says in yards. Okay? Well, that's important because this is yards, that's yards, and so are these two. So there's no converting to do. We can just find the perimeters of those. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make shape A red and shape B blue, just for the purposes of color coding while I do this. Okay, so we have to do letter A right here. Find the perimeter of each room in yards. So for letter A, the first thing I have to do is find the perimeter of shape A. Okay? Well, again, we find that by adding up all the sides. So if we know anything about rectangles, we know that there's 5 yards plus 4 yards plus, and we know there's another 5 yards and another 4 yards. Okay? Well, remember when we talked about like terms, we got to make sure we can add all these things together. Well, there's yards and yards and yards and yards. Those are all the same label. So I should be able to add all those up. So 5 plus 4 is 9, 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 plus 9 is 18. And yards plus yards plus yards, that just gives me more yards. So 18 yards is the perimeter of shape A. Then we need to find the perimeter of B. Okay? Well, B is 10 yards plus 8 yards plus another 10 yards, plus another 8 yards. If we add all that up, 10 and 8 and 10 and 8, that's 36. Yards plus yards plus yards plus yards is more yards. Just like A's plus A's gave me more A's, yards plus yards give me more yards. Okay? So that's letter A. We found the perimeter of each room in yards. So now we got to move on to letter B. Letter B asks us to find the area of each room in square yards. Well, again, they're in yards here, so we don't have too much work to do. We just have to find the areas. Okay, so I'm going to find the area of shape A. Now notice what I'm doing here as I do these. Okay, letter A had 2 parts. We wanted to find the perimeter of each room, so I made sure I knew that this was the perimeter of A when I solved that, and this was the perimeter of B when I solved it. Make sure you make that distinction so that we know which shape is which, okay, as we go through on problems like these. Well, if you remember how to find the area of a rectangle, the area of a rectangle, and I know this is a rectangle, that's what shape it is, the area of a rectangle is just its length times its width. Okay, so I'm going to just take 5 yards times 4 yards. Well, 5 times 4 is 20. And we'll learn this later with exponent rules they're called, but if I take a label times itself, yards times yards, that's yards squared. Okay? Reason for that is because anything times itself is that thing squared. So for example, okay, this is just a side note, another way I can write 2 times itself, 2 times 2 is 2 squared. Right? And 3 times 3 is 3 squared. Anything times itself, 2 times 2 is 2 squared, because 2 times 2 is 4, 2 squared is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 squared is 9. That's what exponents mean. So anything times itself is that thing squared. That's why yards times yards gives me yards squared. Okay? So that was just a little side note there as to why on something like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try to delete these out here. Nope, I don't want to do that. Never mind. Okay, so then let's go ahead and go back to our problem here. Now we have to find the area of B. Well, again, the area of a rectangle is its length times its width. So this time, the length is 10 yards, and the width is 8 yards. 10 times 8 is 80, and yard times yard is yards squared. So we've answered part A and part B here. Okay? Well, now let's look at part C. Part C here asks us, let's erase that. Part C asks us, how does doubling the length and width affect the perimeter of the rectangle? Well, shape B, all they did was take the length from shape A, 5 yards, and doubled it to 10 yards. And the length of shape A, the width of shape A, 4 yards, and they doubled it and got 8 yards. So this right here, doubling the length and width, is what they did on shape B compared to shape A. So if I look at shape B's perimeter, how did doubling all the lengths and all the widths, how did that affect the perimeter? Well, I'm looking going, well, 18 times 2, that's what doubled means, times 2. 18 times 2 is 36. So doubling the lengths and widths doubled the perimeter too. Okay, that will always have that effect. If I double both the length and the width, then the perimeter will be doubled. Okay, so I'm just going to say that the perimeter doubles if we double the length and the width. Okay, likewise, let's look at the areas of A and B, because again, the lengths and the widths were just doubled for shape B, but the perimeter didn't double. Okay, it didn't double. 20 times 2 is not 80. In fact, it went times 4, which is called quadrupled. Okay, so you could say that the perimeter, or the area quadrupled, but I'm going to say the area is 4 times bigger, because that's what quadrupled means. And some people don't know what quadruple means. Okay, so the area is actually 4 times bigger. Well, that should make sense too. If the perimeter, the yards, are doubled, then yards squared should be quadrupled, because 2 doubling squared is 4. So it should be 4 times bigger. Okay? So again, you double the length and width of a shape, the perimeter will double, and the area will be 4 times bigger. Alright, let's move along here. And we have one more example. The example says, find the perimeter and area of this figure. All angles are right angles, means they have square corners. Okay? Well, again, remember, perimeter is the distance around the outside. Okay? So we're going to find the perimeter of this shape in red. And to find the perimeter, I need to add up all the sides. Well, I see a 12 centimeters, plus a 10 centimeters, plus a 5 centimeters, plus a 6 centimeters. But I'm looking going, uh-oh, I got a side here I don't know, and a side here I don't know. I got to add that in because this shape has 6 sides. Well, we can figure out this side by taking this whole length and subtracting this little length. Okay? Because this side plus this side, if I look, this side plus this side equals that whole side. See, look at this here. I could take this side H and kind of move it up here and attach it to the top. We see how side H, if I move it up here and connect it with this one, makes that whole side. Those should be equal to each other. So 12 minus 5 should give me 6 for side H. Okay, so that's another 6 centimeters. I'm running out of room here. Likewise, for V here, okay, for V, I need to take 10 minus 6, okay, 10 minus 6, because if I took this 6 and put it over here and connected it with V, 6 plus V should equal 10. So I say 6 plus what equals 10? That should be 4. So my V is 4. So I need to add in another 4 centimeters there. Well, I need to add all those up. 12 plus 10, that's 22. 22 plus 11 is 33. And 33 plus 10 is 43 centimeters on that. Okay? 43 centimeters. Well, now I gotta find the area. Well, I don't have a formula for a shape that looks like this. Okay, so what I need to do is split this shape up. I'm going to actually erase this here. Oops, no, I'm not. Never mind. I had to actually split this shape up into shapes I know how to find the area of. So far, the only shape we've covered this year is rectangles. Well, I already kind of did this for you. If I split this down the middle here, okay, I've got a rectangle right here and a rectangle right here. Okay? Well, this rectangle has dimensions of 6 by 6, okay? So I'm going to call this rectangle 1 and rectangle 2. Well, to find the total area of the whole thing, I need to add up the area of rectangle 1 plus the area of rectangle 2. Well, the area of rectangle 1 is right here. That's a 6 centimeter by 6 centimeter square. If I just take its length times its width, I'm going to take 6 centimeters times 6 centimeters and figure out what the area of that shape is. And then I'm going to add it to the area of rectangle 2. Well, rectangle 2, if I look here, this is a 10 centimeter length by a 5 centimeter width. So I'm going to take a 10 centimeter length times a 5 centimeter width to solve that. Again, splitting it up into two shapes I know how to find the area of. This whole thing isn't a shape I know, but if I split up into two rectangles, I can manage that and then just add those two pieces together because they make the big piece. So 6 centimeters times 6 centimeters, that's 36 centimeters squared. I had to add in 10 centimeters times 5 centimeters is 50 centimeters squared. And if I take 36 centimeters squared plus 50 centimeters squared, that is 86 centimeters squared. And that is our lesson on perimeter and area. So if there's any questions, make sure you ask them. Otherwise, good luck on the assignment and happy homeworking.